Hi everyone, welcome to this showcase and walkthrough of my Overwatch level. I don't really know how to do these videos. I've never really done a walkthrough, so this is my very first time. So if you have any feedback concerning the map or the walkthrough, both are very appreciated. But I'm just gonna, go through my map and talk a little bit about it, talk a little bit about what I thought in for which elements, why I did these elements like this. This is going to be a lot less edited than the first video that I did, but yeah, I don't have a script to go through this. I'm really just gonna go through the map and see what I want to do. So as you can see, I did it in Unreal Engine, and this is really just like a gray box with dev textures put on it. Nothing more. I'm not a level artist. As you know, my map is situated in Switzerland and inspired by Zermatt. If you don't, I heavily advise you to watch the first video or the more edited video that I did, the shorter one. This is going to be linked on the screen in the top right. Going to pop up now. Yeah, you should watch that one first and then return to this one. So as you can see, this one, this part here is the more the village part that was inspired by Zermatt. So the brown materials are all meant to represent wood, like chalets and so on. Chalets made out of wood. Bridges as well, also made out of wood. A bit inspired by the Nepal bridges. Yeah, exactly, like something like this. But I was more imagining actually something on one of the other Nepal maps. So I did take a lot of inspiration, especially in how they do the models of stones and mountains and walls here from Nepal, especially from this map, because this is a very, well, it's not just a very mountainous map, it is literally a map on a mountain. So we're here now. These are the bridges that I had in mind when designing the bridges that I did in my my map. So yeah, you can see how similar they are. I try to have also a similar width to them. So this bridge exactly, this would be inspired by those. But you know what? I'm just gonna go through the map and talk a little bit about it. Well, see where everything leads me. So this is the first attacker spawn. So this is as an attacker where you spawn when you load into the map. This is where you prepare with your team to attack. This is a inside the mountain train station. This was just a cool idea I came up with. This spawn, I didn't really know what to theme it, or like what the theme of the building of what the theme of the spawn building should be. I thought of a church, similar to the one in Zermatt that's in the middle of town that I showed in the other video. I can put a picture on the screen up here. I wanted to do that, but I wasn't sure that I should do that because I had to talk with my teacher, and he said, like, we want to keep all religion and all beliefs out of this because we don't really know the policy of Blizzard and what their religion policy and so is, and how they want to depict religion in their games. And because we weren't sure, we were just like, okay, right, let's I'll just show none, and then there's nothing to complain about. I'm gonna take some water breaks in between some time. So yeah, so that's why we start in a train station, inside the mountain train station. This is how you also arrive at the village. I don't know, like, this is why it's so small and so could be very touristy, I imagine. But yeah, these are both of the sides of the train station where you arrive, and just the main spawn room is the main train station room. There's not really been a lot of development here. This was just kind of the idea once I started greyboxing. And so this is kind of how it stayed all the time. Of course, I'm still in the process of detailing and so on, and so this This will be more fleshed out with the next iteration of the map. This is currently the latest iteration, and I'm going to go through and show you other previous iterations as well when I talk about like developments and so on of areas. But of this area, this building, there's not really been a lot of development. And so, yeah, I don't really have anything great in terms of progress to show here. So there's 3 spawn doors. I wanted the first spawn to be very accessible. So there's this one, which is pretty much invisible for the defenders from their main defense point, or like from the first possible defense point that I imagine. Then you have this one, which is, you can see the bridge from here, which could be the very first defense point. But yeah, that's it. You can't really see anything else from here. And then you have this one, the side, where you can also barely see the bridge, but I mainly did this, to keep in mind that you want to get out of spawn safely and be able to exit your spawn without getting killed immediately. Like, you could theoretically, yes, but yeah, but it's not the most simple thing to do. So I wanted to make it as hard as possible. Like, I wanted to make the spawn and the exit as safe as possible, basically, is what I'm saying. Just some light cover here also to make this corner less boring. Also, because if you just look at the mountain wall like this without the tree, it's just a boring wall, a boring edge of the map. Like this, it's at least a little more exciting. It's not meant to be exciting, you're not supposed to come here and be like, oh wow, I love this edge, I guess. But yeah, this is just to make it a little more visually pleasing and provide you some cover. I'm gonna have to fix up this missing texture. So these things are the health packs. There's 2 of them in Overwatch, as you might know. The big ones, which are the ones that we see right here, and there's the small ones, which I'll show you an example once we get to it. I put them in the map as well. They're not on the paper map, even though I really should put them on there. But the updated version of the paper map is not done yet, and that's where I'll put them on. Or like the updated version. The version of the paper map that corresponds to this iteration of the grey boxing is not done yet. So I'll do that as soon as I'll try and finish that as soon as possible. So this is the first groupment of houses. Mainly I wanted to have chalets here because I just love Swiss chalets. We'll get to this part in a second. So yeah, this is the main, the critical path to the point is up here and then here. This is a little bit inspired by Eichenwald from before the main choke as well. It's very similar, as you might imagine. I'm gonna go and show you. I wanted to have similar dimensions because I really like how they approach that, and I also wanted to have a lot of different elevation in my map. So as we can see, voila, this part right here, there you go, and bam, you come up to the choke point right here. It's very similar, as you can see. Dimensions also very similar. I just really like that choke point. I like it a lot, and I feel like it works really well with this natural geometry that I'm trying to have. So we also have these stairs right here, giving you a minor high ground and a little bit of insight into what's coming on the point, which you cannot see from here. Yeah, also a little bit, as I said, a little bit higher ground here, and also an access to the mega health pack from here, giving you an easy route. There's another one in here to the side of the choke, having a quick route to both health packs. These are close to the spawn. This is where the attacker is meant to feel safe, retreat safely to their team. You had a fight on the point, you're like, damn, this hasn't worked out. Let's go back. Let's retreat. You gotta, get through the choke, back through the choke again. And then on this part is supposed to be the safe space in quotation marks for the attackers. It's not, obviously it's not an actual safe space. You can still be killed here, but it sort of provides or feels more safe. So here, you drop off here, you die. I imagine just, having a plain old valley. Oh, sorry. Gotta sit straight. I just imagine a plain old valley here. Like, you see them everywhere in Switzerland. I think you can imagine a plain, a beautiful valley here. I'm just going to put up a picture on the screen as well. Here, a little bit of vertical retreat for the characters with vertical mobility. They can retreat up there, and if a flanker is chasing them, they might look over here and be like, oh, where are they? But generally, I wanted this area to be very safe and very villagey, and so that's why there's a lot of corners, nooks and crannies, and like hiding spots and big health packs here. There's another one right in here, but that's mainly what I have right here, is because this is where the attackers are meant to retreat, regroup, regather, and to try and sell this feeling. I made it this small, this cornery and so on. Also, I really, you might see this already, but I tried to avoid having as many having a grid map, so to say. So this means is, this is boxy in quotation marks because everything is straight, but as you can see, this is angled, this is angled, this is slightly angled. It's all meant to guide the player towards the choke point and not have a boxy 90-degree angle map all the time, because it's just not visually pleasing to look at. And I just prefer this. Even though the buildings are just giant boxes, it's already visually more pleasing to look at, as if this was a grid placement, which already tells me that I personally think that I did a great job with how I placed the buildings. But everyone's going to be a judge for themselves for that. So we come up here, we go through this tunnel. We have the corner here with the health pack, which I made a little bit bigger, to give people a place to hide and to know that there's truly a corner here. Again, the hiding place, making the attacker feel a little safer when they're retreating through here. This is all natural stone underneath there. So the building here is sitting on top of natural stone. I should make this a little more visible here. It's not entirely visible here. I kind of messed up the textures here. So everything that you see to the line just above my head here should be stone. So I'm gonna correct that. What I imagine a healthy Overwatch map to look like, at least in my opinion, is, or to play is somewhere where you can rotate through the map. As an attacker, you can safely out-rotate your enemy. What this means is let's say the enemy is defending on this bridge right here, right? So they have their whole team set up on the bridge. Well, as an attacker, you can out-rotate them by taking this path, going straight to the point. Yes, they can still turn around and shoot at you from the point, but here you're safe, and you're forcing them to rotate out of their position, right? Or maybe you're not a pussy team. Maybe you're okay, let's face him, and then you rotate up here, right? And you try and get him. So one last thing I want to say here. This used to be a lot more linear and closed off. And I kind of want to show you this with the other map I have here. So this is the second version, the second iteration I ever have of this map. The very first iteration with point C, as you can see, a lot more gray, a lot more unfinished as the previous version. But first of all, what you can see is I didn't hollow out the buildings, so I only knew where I wanted the entrances to be, but I didn't know how I wanted the buildings to look. Also, the entire mountain part here is missing. Let's see if the play from here works, or if it's super laggy. Okay, it kind of works. The sensitivity is a little higher here. That sucks, but whatever. So first of all, as you can see, no big stones here, you know, for the tunnel entrance, no big stones. I didn't really know how I wanted to represent this. If I just wanted this to be, again, just tall buildings or whatever I wanted it to be. But I thought that having, again, tall buildings with just more tall buildings here is just boring. Also, this was supposed to be open, but I was like, that makes no sense if there's a mountain here. So yeah, we have this. This building is now shorter, and as you can see, there was another corner right here, and there was no opening. And I felt like, well, and then here there was no nook, you know, no cranny to hide in, and here there was, you know, no like, this was just an entire building, and this wasn't like, as you can see from the most recent version, it's not a place where you can hide with someone with vertical mobility, right? And so this is also pretty, you know, unfinished, but it's been fixed now, so doesn't really matter. But yeah, you can see like this is literally just where I wanted the buildings to be, how I wanted the map to flow, and I updated from this because, as you can see, this doesn't feel like this doesn't feel to me like a real small village, because a small village has a lot of nooks, a lot of crannies, a lot of places where you can hide, a lot of small pathways in between houses that can be natural or unnatural, right? And this is just gives me more of a big city feeling, like really, really tall buildings, like just two main roads, and just two ways to get to the same exact point, which is here, and it's around there and around here, and well, three, I guess, if you count this. And so I wanted to, you know, I created this, I made this more open, removed this building that you see right here, and well, it worked wonders. It gave a lot better feeling of this small village feeling that I wanted to have, and this more like a safe place for attackers to hide. Yeah, also the tunnel, you know, I didn't know how exactly I wanted the tunnel to flow, but I knew that I wanted the entrance here and the exit here, so that hasn't really changed that much. What has changed though is also that I wanted there to be an entrance here, but I thought that why would I need an entrance there? One, it's weird if you're standing in the choke here and you're like, oh, okay, let's go through the entrance here. Two, if you sit inside the building here, you can see straight to the edge, like to the corner of the tunnel that you have here. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, and because, you know, you could just get this really weird, like, staring into a hallway from another hallway feeling, I try to eliminate that by placing this exit, you know, where this stupid weird wall is. Like, the only I'm not gonna lie, the only reason this wall exists is to get the normal size of a choke point like this in Overwatch, like to match it up with the size of the King's Road choke point. That was the only reason this wall exists. And it, like, just also from here and so on, I'll show you later, but when I talk more about this choke, because if you've seen the video, you know that this choke has been like a main point of contention for me in this map. And it's gone through a lot of different iterations, and I'll show you a lot of these different iterations. But this stupid wall looks so, I don't know, it may not look ugly to you, but I look at this and I'm sad. I'm like, this does not look good or creative, or this does not like mean anything, this wall. This is just stupid. This is just like a band-aid, you know, like instead of operating, you know, instead of doing surgery on the problem, you just put a band-aid on it and say, that's fine, you know. And I don't like that. And so that's why I changed it. And now I'm actually pretty proud of that choke. So yeah, this is kind of the main village part I wanted to showcase in this iteration. So don't get confused. This iteration is not the one before the one that I'm mainly showing this map in. Or not the one directly before, but it is one of the very first iterations. So let's go back to the other map. So as you can see, again, just highly contrasted, also obviously with the colors, but mainly just the geometry as well already shows you this is a much more open map. Wait, I have a version without the colors where I can show this even better. Yeah, we have these buildings are now separated. This nook is also, like this corner is also a lot wider. You have this building also with different vertical, like this, like could be a terrace. I think this is a terrace, you know. You can already see how much more open and playable this map is, and how many more different paths you can take throughout this map. Like you can take this one, you can take this one. Like you can do a whole host of things just by opening this up and, you know, creating some more gaps and corners here for people to hide in, and just allowing them to move around more freely. It really gave me a lot better feeling of that map, of that safe space, of that village feeling that I wanted to have. And so, yeah, really, I think that was a great job of how I handled that. And yeah, this mainly looks the same from this iteration. This is a much later iteration, but still far from the final iteration. Right. So now we're going to talk about this little choke right here. Choke point. I will shorten it to just saying choke. Well, this one has cost me a lot of headaches and a lot of energy. So what I want to say with that is it's gone through a few iterations, not a lot, but I had to think and to redraw a lot just for this choke to be correct, or to be, you know, fine, I guess, okay. So this is the very first iteration of the choke. I already kind of showed how this worked, and how I didn't like this wall. And so, as I said in the video, like I did my research, but I mainly focused my research on the on both capture points, so 2CP, so assault maps, and hybrid maps, and both of those have different choke points. So assault maps have much more closed off choke points, much narrower choke points than, or much more punishing choke points than hybrid maps. Reason for that being is assault maps, the goal of assault maps is to just capture two different capture points, while on hybrid it's more the goal to capture the point, well, not more, but the goal is to capture a point and then push a payload. And usually the difference is being made in how far a team has pushed the payload and how much time they need to capture the first checkpoint. Of course, sometimes you'll be full held. That's, what's called when you get when the attacking team does not even get the first point, right? So you'll get a full hold. Of course that happens, but usually, as I mentioned in my other video, it's on assault maps. On hybrid maps, it's usually a case of when does the point get captured, and not does it even get captured, or if the point gets captured, right? And so yeah, that's what I designed this. That's how I designed this in mind. Was more of a mix of both, or I try to. Was more a mix of both. Was kind of unhealthy. So for this choke, it was always meant to be between two houses, and always meant to be this clear. And I always wanted to do a little bit something a little different, because every single choke in Overwatch has the main choke and a bypass, like a flanking bypass. But for every single bypass, then there's Numbani, which has a very weird choke and a very weird bypass, but they kind of work. Numbani is a really interesting map when looking at the default rules of Overwatch, because they're a lot more loosely implemented. Usually in Overwatch, how these bypasses work here, I'll show you an example in Overwatch itself, or in Overwatch 1 at least. They used to work like this. I think the only one that I can think of right now that is kind of built similar to mine is Midtown. How they used to work was you had the main choke, and then the bypass was, just to the right or to the left of it. And just always having that to the left or the right would kind of, boring in my opinion. Not boring, but like I wanted to do something different, right? It's not necessarily boring, but I wanted it to be different. So actually I'm on the perfect map already. Just need to show you guys my Overwatch recording. There we go. We're loading into Hollywood. Always default on Lucio, but we can go spectators here. Actually, to even show it even better. Let's go to the main choke, shall we? Right. There we go. So we are going to approach it from the attacking angle. So every single road that's coming up through here or wherever from this point, right? There's a path coming through here, a path coming through here, so one coming through here. All of them lead through these 2 points. So the main choke and the little bypass. And they have this on every single map. And so how I wanted to do it was I wanted to do a little more interesting bypass, right? Not just like, oh, we have the choke here, right? And then to the left of it is the bypass, right? And there's a few rules that I kind of noticed. Again, I mentioned like no written down rule. Yeah, shut up, Mr. Payload Man. I talked a little bit about these unwritten rules, or no clear rule set, no clear rule book. I mean, in my main video, right? There's no, what I meant by that is like there's no official rule book somewhere on the internet that says Overwatch maps need to have this, this, and this. I'm sure they have one internally, but I don't have access to that, and so I just kind of had to analyze and get all that by checking everything myself. And so what I noticed is that the main choke and the bypass can always be seen from both of them can always be seen from the main defense position, or like from the point, right? They can always both be seen. Or if the bypass cannot be seen, the enemies can see that the attack, or the defenders can see that the attackers are going to go to the bypass. So they will always be able to rotate accordingly in advance, right? And so I had to keep these rules in mind, but I wanted to do something different. And so I actually wasn't even inspired by Midtown to do this, but I'm going to go to Midtown anyway to show it, because I I realized that is kind of what they did. Also, I have to say, Paraíso's main choke is also quite interesting. So yeah, exactly. We spawn on the perfect location for this. Awesome. So the bypass exits here. This is the exit for the bypass. And the bypass enters here, and here's the main choke. And so what they did was they combined the main choke and the bypass, for the choke to be on the low ground and the bypass to pass above it. And well, that's what I did as well. That's what I wanted to do as well. And so I just recently realized that that's kind of the same as what I did, but now we just go back to my Unreal because now I want to talk about this. So the goal was, and you can see this on the paper map as well, but you cannot see it here right now. Well, you can kind of guess it. So the goal was for people or for attackers to enter this building right here. So they would go into this building and then take that door, go across the bridge. So this is the point. And so you could see them taking the bridge. Now, granted, it's really hard to see them taking the bridge from the point. And we'll get to that later when I talk about point A, because there have been some significant changes made to that as well. So you go through here, you go into this room, right? Then there's a small, regrouping room. You can reset all your cooldowns, wait here. You're kind of safe from, as an attacker, you're kind of safe from the defenders. They can't hurt you in here. Or, you're in the advantage here. Let's say it like this. You're safe here. And then you would go out through this side. I'm gonna pause the match just quickly so that we don't have the police sirens from Midtown in the background all the time. So again, you would exit through here, and then you could drop down here, so that there was no direct connection to the other high ground, to the defenders' high ground, because that would mean that, one, the defenders could just go to the bridge unharmed and defend from there, and then there's basically no other option for the attacking team other than to attack them here, or just completely ignore them. It wouldn't be awful, but I didn't like the idea in my head, and I didn't want my map to play that way, so I left it like this. And so the goal was to mainly direct them through here, direct the players to go through here, the attackers, let them rotate through the bypass coming from down here, and then let them jump down into this little courtyard where they could be ambushed, I guess. The defenders could drop down on them and maul them if they have the right team composition to do that, or they could just out rotate them, set up shop here for when they enter in here, and then go through the back of the house, which I'll show later when we get to the later iterations of point A. But yeah, that was kind of how I wanted this choke to play, so that as an attacking team you have two options initially, and that's how kind of every choke in Overwatch plays. Is you either take the bypass, which is a little longer, but if you successfully manage to get through the bypass, you'll have a safer route, or you take the very hard to get through choke point, which is the critical path, the shorter one. That's how I wanted my map to play, and I think already, even though I don't really like this choke, I think it still encapsulated that feeling that I wanted to get, and it still had this gameplay thought in mind and represented it pretty well. So what happens after you get through the choke is mainly everything splits up, right? After you get through a choke, you have 1,000 different ways. Well, not 1,000 really, but there's no set number on how many different ways you have to a point after you get through a choke. And so I kind of just was like, okay, you know, here we're going to do 4 main lanes, I guess you could call it. So one to the right here, which back then still was where the point was. Again, I'll talk more about the point later. So that was, here's the capture point. This represents the payload. So yeah, you can either go straight to the point, you can bypass the point and then choose either of these entries to this building, or, you know, go around here or go behind this building or whatever, you know, but like bypass the point and the high ground. You can enter through here, go into this building, you know, the building that the defenders will most likely stand on. Like, they don't have to, but it's the best vantage point for them on this in this area, in this arena. Or you can go through the side here and take this entrance as well. So that was kind of the 4 main lanes I wanted to direct players after they get through the choke. And so I think I kind of showed that well as well already in this iteration of the map. Can try, maybe, you know, maybe the play from here is not as laggy as it is in other versions. Perfect. It's not laggy at all, actually. Nice. So you can see the choke here. You come up to the choke. Also this elevation. I really wanted this elevation. I don't know. I like elevation differences to signalize things to players. Like, so what I wanted to do with this is, once you get up here, you realize, okay, now it's getting real, right? Like, you're up here now. You're on the same plane as the point. You're directly in front of the choke. It's like, okay, so here's kind of the safe space, and now we're getting serious. It's kind of the feeling I wanted to have. Again, as I mentioned, this should be a whole, like, retreat place, attacker's haven, you could say. So you get through the point, the choke, I mean, you know, where the defenders would stand up here and defend usually. And, well, then you had the 4 different lanes that you could take. And I feel like, you know, this is a pretty obvious choice presented for the player, right? They see that, okay, something is to the left there. They obviously see the door right in front of them. They can see the point, kind of. And that is kind of the main issue I see here, and why I changed the point later, which I will get to very soon. And they see, obviously, the lane right in front of them here, where they can just bypass the point and not go to the building as well. So that was kind of the choices I wanted to give the player here, and, you know, that worked. I also wanted to direct their vision onto the high ground against the enemies, which is why this building is angled this way, and just generally this corner is angled like this. This building is also kind of angled, because when I turned it, like, just for this to be a 90-degree angle, it felt super unnatural, uneasy, and I just really hated the feeling of it. It felt very artificial and static, and I really hated that feeling. And so I was like, okay, you know, I kind of want to funnel the players into this general area, and so let's kind of slightly angle it that way. And also, you know, if you angle it this way, you angle that building like this, you will naturally funnel their vision and center their vision towards this point or this point, right? Which is like where they'll see, like, okay, there's 4 different options, or I guess 3 different options, because you cannot really see the point here. The only indication you would have that the point would be there would be the UI marker. Which you don't want to rely on UI markers as a level designer, because you can do better. That's all I'm going to say for that. If you have to rely on UI markers, then you know that you can do better. And that was kind of why I changed this point later as well. But yeah, I think that's mainly for this iteration of the choke. I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to talk about the next iteration of the choke. So you can already see how much it changed. And I think that was also kind of the final iteration of the choke. All right, so we're in the later iteration. So this is also still not the final iteration of point A and this choke, but you can see that I already carved out, or, I already hollowed out the buildings, made the rooms, the stairs, and I edited the choke. The choke is a different one. The choke is actually, I think, mainly, it's almost the final one. So we're going to go through it from a spectator's perspective, and then I'm going to go through it from an in-game perspective. So what I changed here was I took this stupid wall away that I found really ugly. And I also took the building away that like forced your vision like that. Why I'm gonna get to in a minute, but I'm just gonna say all the changes I made. So I built this tower here. Now the main idea for my first iteration, or the first change of the choke, as I mentioned in the other video, was that I wanted to have a tighter choke and a more visually defined choke. Because if we look at that choke, or even, if we look at this choke, is it as visually defined as a Hanamura choke, as a Volskaya Industries choke, as maybe even a Hollywood choke, honestly? No, not really. It's not really as defined as that. And so I wanted to have it more defined. And as I mentioned in the video, I wanted to have a clock tower with a tunnel underneath and a tunnel through the middle of it, on a higher layer. So this tower here would be standing in the middle here, and there would be a tunnel underneath this tower where the attackers would get through, or they would go through this tunnel right here, where I would probably put a glass window so that the rule still would apply, that you as a defender could see them very well before they go through before they actually get to the end of the bypass, right? So that you as a defender could still see them from the point taking the bypass. But I then reconsidered my research and looked at the video from Leap Gaming, which you should really check that video out. It's a great, if you want to know more about how hybrid maps are designed and like the fundamental rules of hybrid maps. They don't go into like crazy level design detail, right? They don't go as nuts on it as I now did in my analysis, but it's a really, really, really good starting point and a very good video on explaining you how the foundation or the fundamentals of a hybrid map work. So go check it out. It's also in the description of this video. I really liked it. You go, boys. So what they explained in that video was that hybrid maps are much more, or chokes of hybrid maps are much more open than chokes of assault maps. And exactly that was kind of what I was straying away from if I were to implement the tower as a choke. And I honestly didn't like it as well. I felt like having the tower be the choke point would kind of focus your attention as an attacker on the choke point as well, in a way that I didn't like. Because if let's go to Overwatch, right? Okay, so we are back in Overwatch, and as you can see, we're on Eichenwald, and Eichenwald is one of my favorite maps that does this. And so one thing they do is the choke point is not the tallest thing here. The reason for that being everyone has to get through the choke point. Every single character. And in Overwatch, you have a ton of characters with a lot of vertical mobility, meaning you have to give them a chance to get through the choke point as well. So let's say the tower that they have standing here would be the choke point, right? And you would just have a tunnel underneath. What the hell does Farah do to get through this choke? she goes to the floor and walks through it, or she flies around it. Sure, you can do that with Pharah now, right? There's this flank that is almost exclusively for Pharah. Like, sure, other characters can use it, but requires a lot of precision and timing. But Pharah would be forced to go around the choke if you were to put the tower where the bridge is right now. Why is that a bad thing? Well, you want to direct the action through the choke point. Flanks should be, optional, longer, more dangerous, right? The choke point should be the shortest way, or, the choke point is the quickest way to the point, right? Okay, yeah, sure. Pharah's way to the point is quicker if you go through here. Okay, fair enough. But putting a tower here would not really make sense, because you would just block Pharah from getting through the choke. So what their solution was, and I prefer this, I enjoy this solution a lot, is put, for the attackers, put the thing that draws the attention for the choke behind the choke from the view of the attackers, which is the tower right here. So you have the tower, which it needs to draw attention to both the choke and the capture point, because the capture point is the thing that you need to get to, and the choke is the main, or the critical path to get to this capture point. So what they did was they put the tower directly in the path of from the bridge or the choke point to the capture point, so that your attention would be 100% drawn there, as well as, put this tower-esque roof here, these really tall buildings and roofs here, so that this choke really gets pronounced by being, shorter. That is how you pronounce the choke. That is, I think, the whole thing that I'm getting here is sometimes with lots of verticality, you can easily pronounce things by making them, shorter. There we go. I took this tower, which, was going to be this, used it kind of as a delimiter for the choke, but, and in the later version, it's even taller, because, right now it's not really that much taller than the rest of the buildings, let's be honest. But, yeah, I put it here, and I was like, okay, let's not use the tower as the choke, but let's use it behind the choke, right, to still draw attention to it. Just imagine the tower being a little bit taller, because that's how it is in the latest version. It's like, okay, there's the tallest building, I probably need to go there. You go to the choke, you see the tallest building here, it's directly blocking off the point or showing the point, and it's like, oh, okay, I want to go there, actually. And so, that's how we go through here. Voila. That's why this tower has ended up not being the choke itself, but behind the choke. Now, also, as you can see, no door here in comparison to the previous version. No door. Door has been moved into the tower because, it gives the defenders an option to hide easily. The attackers an option to hide easily from the defenders, and it also eliminates the hallway of mirrors that we had here. So, like, having a hallway looking straight into another hallway, we would have had that if we had a door here with a room behind it, but now, like this, we just straight up look at a wall, right? So easy enough. We go through here, go up here into this room, and then we can cross the bridge, so that you don't need to backtrack all the way through here to go up here, but you can take this route up here, go through the bypass. We get to this room, which is kind of the regroup room I talked about. Have a window so you're not entirely safe, and you can kind of set up shop here for a little bit, maybe spam a little bit or be spammed a little bit. And then we go out here, go down here to this little courtyard fighting area where you can instantly enter here. Enter the building here, go up the stairs here, and there we go. Now we're on the defender's high ground. This is how, as an attacker, you could rotate through the map to get onto the attacking high ground. So, let's show you. Let's show point A here. Now, first version here, I'm gonna show. Actually, there we go. I'm gonna show this version first, exactly, because this is an even uglier version. So here, as you can see, we're back in the old version. There's no opening here, no rooms here, whatever. So we have this courtyard, right, opening up a little big area here, leading into here. There we go. We have, everything is kind of on the same plane, on the same elevation, which makes it, for me at least, pretty boring. I hate having everything on the same elevation. I really like elevation differences. So that's why I added an elevation here later, to make it look more exciting and to have it also be visibly, like to also have a very visible partition between this area where, it's kind of the capture point flat fighting area, and this area which is kind of the defender's high ground area with access to it. To have so there's not really much to see here except for the defender's building. This is inspired a lot by the I don't know if it's a hotel or a museum. I'd have to look that up again, but I'm gonna put a picture up right now. This building right next to the church in Zermatt has inspired what this is going to be. This is going to be a restaurant hotel in my map. You can see how it correlates. This round extension is directly nabbed from that. I saw that and I was like, I want to have that in my map. Well, and now I do. There we go. And so also what I wanted to do is I wanted to close off this point so that you have a very visible separation between point A, where you capture the point and get the payload rolling, and point B, where the payload, rolls through and defenders have to defend from a payload, which is in pretty much every single Overwatch map or hybrid map. That's the case. Like, you have a big separation. I can go back to Overwatch, show you the King's Row example. So here you have point A, where you capture the payload. It comes out here and it gets rolling, and then bam, the huge separation, which in this case you can see here they force characters like Pharah and Genji and so on to take the alternative routes or not use their abilities, their vertical abilities, to get through this choke. But here it doesn't matter that much because it's a different gameplay situation, right? Because here it's capturing a point and here it's pushing a payload, right? A moving objective. So yeah, this is the big separation between point A and point B in King's Row in an existing Overwatch map. So we go back to Unreal. Whoops. Yeah, this was my separation here. Normal choke, separated with two, or made smaller, shortened with two walls to get where the payload goes through after being captured. And a very open fighting area and point. Now, as I said, this was thematically, this was going to be, or this is more of the town place, you know, where the commercial district kind of is of this small village. So here you have the town hall, you have the hotel, you have shops and everything, like the kind of touristy, like the area where the tourists would be in this small town. So that would be here. That was supposed to be this area. Now we go to the second version, because I already prefer that one, and we can really see how it's changed already. Yep. Whoopsie. So yeah, now we're in the second version, in the more advanced version. In a later iteration, here you can really see how it's already come along. So yeah, as I said, I already opened up the rooms, right? I made them rooms, I hollowed out the buildings, and I made the little elevation here to have this separation of, okay, this part right here along this line is defenders area, right? Defenders advantage area, and this one right here is just the flat brawling part of the map. As you also can see, there's an opening here now and kind of a flank, right? I really wanted to have so what I really wanted to have was a way for a character to be able, like for attackers to take a really long but very safe rotation. Like, let's say they attack the point, they get spammed on the point, they don't have the resources to stay there, so what are they going to do? They might just, you know, rotate around here, annoy them off the high ground and then fight them on the point. Something like that, for example. They could also just already take the rotation around here, like go through here, jump down here, like take the path on this, take the bypass, go through the building, come out here, then go behind, come through here, and then up here, you know, a very, very safe rotation, but it takes a long time to do this incredibly safe rotation. So that's what I wanted to kind of aim at, was give teams a lot of options to rotate around this point A, to out-rotate their enemy, to out-rotate the defense. However, I wanted, like, the safer the option was, so like the more cover you had, the longer it had to be. And this is really the longest possible route. I'm gonna walk it once. So this is really the longest possible route. Voila. Bam. You know, they're gonna shoot at you. Gonna come through here. Make it as little seen as possible. Come through this building. Come up here. Can, you know, go through here or whatever. Through here. And then, bam, you're on the high ground. But the defenders had a lot of time to adapt, you know, think of a plan, and so on and so forth. Like I as a level designer gave the defenders so much time to react to what the attackers are going to do, and I forced them to go through the view path every single time. Again, of course, you know, they don't have to. They can also take that entrance. They don't have to go through the view of the the defenders again, but they have to go through the view of the defenders here on the bridge. So no matter what angle the attackers are coming from, the defenders will realize where they are coming from and can react accordingly. So this was mainly the point B. What I also changed here is, again, because I wanted, as I mentioned much earlier, I wanted these buildings to sit like on rocks. So guess what I did? I put rocks in here. I took away that second building. So what I had here was this building. I'm gonna show it again. in the other iteration of the map. There we go. We had the building here that narrowed the entrance to this side path. But I changed that building because, let's be honest, let's face it, this looks kind of ugly. And having this be another part of the building, I didn't really know how to represent it in an Overwatch fashion. And so what I ended up going with were, these stones, these rocks, I guess, which narrow the path perfectly. They fit very naturally. They break up the vision of, they break up the visuals of this map. They make it a lot more beautiful to look at, a lot more visually pleasing in terms of both geometry and colors later on, as you will see later on in the map, in the latest iteration. And it still achieves the same effect of narrowing the entrance to this side path. Right. Capture point itself. I think it's the only thing I didn't talk about here yet. I mean, there is the spawn, the second attacker spawn after they've captured point A, which is always in Overwatch. These second spawn points for the attackers are right next to the capture point that they have just captured. So what did I do? The exact same thing. I put the building here. This entrance disappears later because it didn't really make sense to me putting that there. But originally the spawn building was supposed to be just from here and then, have something behind here. But as you'll see later in the latest iteration, that is just not the case anymore. And it also didn't really make sense doing that. So that's why I changed it. Yeah. The capture point itself. Capture point itself, for most of development, has resided on this very spot and in this very state, lowered into the floor. I was like, okay, let's give it a very distinctive visual or geometry. Let's give it very distinctive geometry. So that you know that this is the capture point, right? No matter how I twisted and turned it, I didn't think that this was exciting gameplay, right? As an attacker, you come through here, you go to the point. The only option the defender has is to drop down and go to the point. Period. That's the only option they have. You can spam them from here, which is why I left very little cover, but just staying behind the payload, it forces them to drop down off of the high ground, which makes everything redundant. And I had this thought all throughout development, I felt like, but if I put it here, it's too close to the high ground, and what would that change? And the answer is not as much as I thought it would, but another reason why I felt like it should change was in Overwatch on hybrid maps, you can usually both teams can rotate easily all around the point. So on every single side of the point, you could have any team standing at any point. Here, that's not really the case. You can only have a team standing, on this side that I'm currently looking at, this side of the point, or this side of the point. There's no option for them to stand on this side of the point because, well, there's just no space. And here, it's really just the attackers that will stand here or, place their supports there. If even, right? But other than that, there's, the point is just so pushed to the side, and it didn't feel like the centerpiece of this. It didn't feel like the most important thing of this entire arena, when it was like that. Even though I had given it, the little dip in the floor, right, to give it more of a disadvantage when you stand on the point, and more of a visual and this more of a distinctive geometry to everything else, right? Even though I had done that, it didn't feel like it was what this entire arena here was about. And so we're gonna go, I'm gonna close these real quick, and we're gonna go to the latest iteration. So we're back. Alrighty, so as you can see, this is the final or the latest version of the point. And yeah, you might be surprised to find that there is no more point over there. No more capture point, that is. And the capture point is now over here. It's this bright red that's really hurting my eyes right now in the screen. And also this Among Us looking truck. So why did I move the point over here? Well, very simple. Few reasons, actually. The main reason was actually the reason I mentioned just before was, you know, the how you play against it as a defender. If the people are sitting, like the attackers are sitting here on the point, and they're all sitting behind the payload, the only option you have is to drop down on the point and fight them there. There's no other option for you. You just have to do that. While with this, there is, like, you can rotate around, you know, there's no point where you're, like, there's no point except for maybe like this. And then that only really means that there's one person on the point, because, yeah, realistically only one player can hide here on this exact spot. But other than that, there's no point where you're safe from all angles of this high ground, or, you know, I mean, you could even say that you're not even safe from all angles of high ground, because you're also not safe from this high ground, right? So that, you know, kind of makes that point also a lot better. Another point of contention that I had was that you couldn't be around, like, you couldn't play on every single side of the point, or like, you couldn't play around the point on every single side of it, if you remember what I mean, if you remember what I showed you. So what that means is, so what I changed for that is, well, you know, moving the point here means that we have you know, playroom on this side of the point. Obviously, you know, coming from this side, we have playroom on this side of the point, right? Coming from here, you know, obviously you play here. On this side, obviously it's the defender's high ground, right? And on this side, it's inside of here, right? The building inside here. And I think you could even just count the background here, this entire building, you know, this entire flanking route. You could take this all as kind of the playable area behind, or like on that side of the point. So that's why I moved it here, to have these things ticked off. You can now see from the choke to the point immediately. So like once you turn around, you know, once you step up, right? Once you step up here, you can't see it when you're on the ramp, but you can see it when you've stepped up here, you know? I guess you can see it when you're all the way back here, right? On the very edge, but it doesn't even matter that much, because, you know, the payload's only visible on this point. So here is where you will have a visual confirmation, not just from the HUD, but also, or from the UI, but also from, you know, actually seeing geometry, that, okay, this is where I have to go. Right, so that's the point there. There is a mini health pack down here, so that, you know, if a flanker gets damaged going around the bypass, you know, they have something to heal themselves up. Even then, they have the mega down here, which can be used by both the defenders for where they have to leave the high ground, though, and, you know, flanking attackers coming through here. for mega health packs on this side of the choke point, but on the other side of the choke point, you remember I mentioned I wanted it to be like kind of this haven for the attackers, right? To regroup, to feel safe, to retreat safely and survive. That's why I put but that's why the only health packs on that side of the choke point are mega health packs. That's why there's 3 of them. That's why they're all decently close to each other. They're not that insanely close, but they're still pretty close to one another. Here on this side of the point, on this side of the choke, we only have 1 mega health pack. I think it's only 1, right? Because this is that's a mini up there, I think, and that's yeah, exactly. So the only mega is useful for both attackers and defenders, but it's in a spot in a spot of the map where there's no other advantages, right? The literal only advantage you have from being down here is the mega health pack. And that is something very important in areas that are this hotly contested, is that no one has an advantage, I guess not necessarily getting to 1 health pack, because, right, if the attackers are over there and the defender support, let's say, is playing here and they get put to 1 HP, like they get a Hanzo shot to the head, but it wasn't fully charged, so they're like on 10 HP, they can drop down, get the health pack, get back up, right, to quickly regenerate and be with their team again. But for an attacker, it's harder reachable in terms of time investment and maybe also ability investment. But still, it's not a crazy point of contention. Or like a crazy, sorry, not point of contention, but not a crazy advantage point to be here. There's no advantage in standing here except for the mega health pack. And I really wanted this. I really didn't want the health packs to be overpowered, or like in spots where you could camp them and they could be super strong. The only health pack where I feel like that could be the case is in this room. This is the only health pack that I feel kind of weary about. The reason I put it here is because, well, let's say you rotate around here as a flanker, you get damaged, you can, quickly regenerate 75 HP and then go back in. Or, also just because it's like it's a point where, an entire team rotates, right? Like you can have 75 HP lying around here, as well as here, a flanker can also drop down here, get these 75 HP as well, go back up again, and either through there or here, go back to being a flanker, back to flanking again. Also, if you're wondering what these purple things are, I'm gonna have a legend for all the colors in the description below. So as I said, pretty much all the colors just represent what color the object is going to have in its final stage. Only exceptions being the capture point or capture points, like, the actual point B and so on. They're red just so that you see that this is the area where the players will capture something. And also the breakable guardrails, the typical breakable guardrails from Overwatch, the ones that you always break during the preparation phase because you're bored. I put up lamp posts as well. On point A. This one is to split to show that there's a split attention, or like that you can split paths from the attacker's point of view, so that you can see, there's more to the point on the right, there's more to this. That's why I put these 2 on here, also just to showcase that, okay, here is one path in quotation marks, right? Like, here's the path to the point, and here's the path to the big side area, like the big fighting area on the side. This right here is just some general off-point cover. having a nice fountain in the town square, very common, very natural, and yeah, just serves as a nice point of cover for a player. Yeah, the small health pack here. All the health packs except for the one that I'm kind of weary about are on low ground, because usually, except for maybe this one, because this one doesn't really have like a great viewing angle from this point, but usually I guess here you have some decent vision, but usually health packs on high ground means that you have an advantage over the enemy in terms of where you're standing, and also in how much healing you can receive autonomously, so not from other characters and not from other players, but just by yourself. And making a position that strong, like having them be on high ground with a health pack right next to them, is super dangerous and can make a position super overpowered very, very quickly. And that's why I put them all on low ground. I've also been thinking for this bridge, maybe I want to make the same as the Dorado bridge on point A, so that I have a fully walk-through door, so to say, on both sides, not two windows here, right, where you can only shoot through but you cannot walk through them, but have this walk-through door on both sides. I'm not sure about that though. I might check that idea out later, but for right now I really like it how it is. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything that needs to be said for point A. So yeah, let's then continue with point B. So after you capture the point A, the payload starts rolling along this red line, which, that represents the payload path. The attackers will then spawn in this building here. This is supposed to be the town hall. Not very detailed at the moment, but as I said in the other video, detailing is the next step right now. So we go through here, come through this, kind of gate that separates the middle of town, the town square, separates that and the more natural part of the town. This was inspired by all the houses and chalets that I saw on outside of town in the grass in FANMADE, and was like, wow, that's a really cool way to design a city. I kind of want to do, or a village, I kind of want to do that as well. Point B is split into two parts. So we have the town part, and then the complete nature part. As you know from the video before, the lore of this map is that the payload carries cargo to deliver to the Overwatch headquarters, the new ones that are being constructed, that are in construction right now. And I didn't want the Overwatch headquarters to be immediately next to the village, or just in town. I wanted them to be kind of separate, because they are it's a huge base. It's very it's very military. You wouldn't see a military base inside of a town, right? There always is a little bit of nature in between the military base or the research facility and town. And so that's why there's a natural forest part in between these two that separates does a clear separation of the headquarters and the main village part that we still have left here. It also serves as kind of a slow transition into a new theme, which in a lot of Overwatch maps that's the case. So for example, what they do on King's Row, which I can show just right now, I just have to whip up Overwatch again. So, as you can see, the geometry here is still very, British big city, right? Like the models you see here, the buildings, the facades, the colors, everything, and the geometry as well. Everything indicates, okay, we're in a big city, in a British big city, right? You know, kind of the modern feeling, modern touch that Overwatch gives everything, and the rustic feeling that, you know, like the British old town has. Then we go to point B, and well, point B still is the same thing. However, it has very different geometry. Why is that? Well, very simple. It's a different game mode, so to say, because it's a different objective. That's the better word. Because here, you know, you're trying to capture a point, right? That's why the geometry is so different to here, where you're trying to push a payload. Here also the map, which I'll come back later I'll come back to that later. The map also follows like a strict rule of like 3 main lanes, but I'll talk about that more when I'm back in my map. So yeah, you can see theme-wise, like nothing really much changes. Like sure, the facades get a little more roughened up. You know, it's more like, you know, that okay, other way around. Like except for this building right here and these two, it's all pretty clean facades here, and it's kind of like, you know, town square, you know, the more rich part of town. And then you come towards here, and here's, you know, you have the working class living here, right? Like the factories and so on. But it all just slowly creeps into frame, right? Like you see here, okay, it's a slow transition from slow transition from the like upper class models and textures to like the more working class models and textures, and the geometry changes kind of instantly, right? And that already gives a feeling of a different theme and a different map. And so here is really where, you know, where the pipes come in, and where we lead into the third part of the map, which is, well, the underworld, what they call it, which is where all of the Omnics live, you know, down here. And it really becomes this like factory with chains and everything. But the geometry stays the same. So kind of this transition that you see in pretty much every hybrid map, I guess kind of Numbani counts as well. I think Numbani is the one that does it the worst, in my opinion. What you see every single time is you have the geometry of for capturing, for like the gameplay geometry for capturing a capture point on point A, right? You know, makes sense. That's what you do here. And then on the second point, you have a slight, like at the first half of point B, it's a slight change of the theme, but the big changes in the geometry. And then the more you progress through point B, the more change there is in the theme as well. And then you transition into point C, which is, you know, the big change where the geometry stays similar to point B, but the theme completely changes. And that's like that on pretty much every hybrid map, I feel like. I cannot think of one that doesn't have that. Let's see. Blizzard World has it. Blizzard World has 3 different themes all throughout. Eichenwald does that really well. Yep. Hollywood also kind of has 3 different themes. I guess it depends on the setting, you know, but like the main rule still applies, is that like on King's Row, what they do really well here is this slow transition from, you know, from a city where, you know, everything's awesome and everyone's rich and happy, to the Omnic, like, you know, slums where they just put the poor people and, you know, dispose of them and disregard them as shit and whatever. Which is what this entire map is about. If you didn't know, yeah, this entire map is about delivering an EMP to the Omnic city to kill the Omnics. So, yeah, just so you know. All right, let's get back to Unreal. Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to achieve as well. So it made sense thematically to split point B up into like 2 sectors, you know, as I said, the village and the natural part. All right, let's go through it then. You know, we have the village here, some cover right here, you know, along the payload path. As I mentioned, there's 3 lanes. You know, like payload maps often have 3 lanes. You have, I will call them very creatively, I will call them left lane, middle lane, and right lane. So yeah, this would be the left lane, right? You know, you come here, come through here. It's left of the payload path. You go through this little flank here, and you can flank the high ground here that the enemies have, right? And then again, you know, right side, it's the same thing with this part, right? Like you come through here on the right lane. You can either go up on the high ground here. There we go, you know, have a little bit of high ground for yourself here. Or you go down, flank along the right side here. It's very close to the payload path, right? Like some hybrid maps do that, like keeping it close to the payload path, and also always like linking it up with the payload path again. Here I kind of force it back onto the payload path and kind of choke it through this. This little part, but you know, we then can go through this building, have this right side up. I'll talk about it later when I get to the natural part. But yeah, this building right here is the point A defender spawn. So as long as point A has not been captured yet, this is where the defenders will spawn. So, you know, in this room, they come out here and then walk back to the point to defend it. It's a reasonable length to go there, you know, it matches with, in terms of time it takes you to get to the point with a lot of the other Overwatch maps. And also, one thing that I like about putting the spawn here, if point A is being captured, right, and you and your team say, okay, let's not attack it again, we cannot defend it, it would just be a waste of time, let's set up for point B. Well, you can immediately do that here, and you can be ready for when they come around this corner right here, because it does come, like the payload comes around pretty quickly there. You know, it spawns just behind, like it starts moving just behind here, so it comes around pretty quickly here, so you can set up shop on this high ground before the attackers have fully captured the point. And yeah, so this would be the first arena, so to say, like the first major point of contesting the card, contesting the progress of the attackers, that the defenders, you know, defenders can use this high ground very well. For the attackers, it's accessible, you know, over this path and over the tunnel flank we just saw, you know, where you go in front of their face, you go down here, and then you can either enter or like exit the tunnel behind here with a mega health pack, or you can exit the tunnel going up to the high ground, right? And then you can flank them here, you know, have some you know, create some mayhem. You can also work yourself onto here. This is purposely like very narrow, so that there's not like an entire team just standing in this angle. Also, it's not really a like that great of an angle, but like for when people come from down here, but you know, it's just kind of for single sniper to hide here, or like, well, hide, like shoot from here, or you know, take the duel inside there where, you know, you cannot shoot from here. You have a better angle into that room, and so on and so forth. Yes, that would be the high ground here. Did this high ground have any evolution? Didn't really. This high ground always kind of was like this. Like from the first time I drew it on the paper map and built it, I just came up with this arrangement. I really liked it, and well, you know, here we are. It is here. We have it, just standing here. This wall was added later on to, you know, give some cover, right? Because like you're standing here, it is a very open place, and especially in Overwatch 2 where there's yet less shields, you do need more of this like solid cover where you can hide behind. You know, can just close off 2-3 angles. It is very short, so for the tall characters you will have to crouch, and like a diva cannot hide here because you know, diva can't crouch. Yeah, then we have this high ground there as well, like this little lip out there. This can be like, you know, a retreat point again for characters with vertical mobility. Right, so we ran into some issues there, but we're back. So if the high ground has been captured, well, you know, this is just for a Widowmaker maybe to, you know, assume this position and keep the high ground clean and kind of look to the flank there on the right. Sorry for my voice cracks. I am a little sick today. Yeah. So we come through here, a little change in elevation. I kind of wanted to make it all this ragged because, you know, it's natural floor. It's supposed to be like, you know, grass, dirt kind of floor. So I made it all natural, like all jagged coming up here. I really like this change of elevation. This change of elevation came very late in development. I'm going to show, like once I'm done showcasing this building that you see right here, I'm going to go through some older versions and you're going to notice that this change in elevation wasn't here. And you're going to see why I put it here, because otherwise it would have been boring. This is a bus stop. I need to detail this. But yeah, there's going to be a bus stop. Just serves as, you know, cover from the high ground here and the high ground and, you know, same high ground but like different angle here, and also, you know, angles here. Tree as well, same thing. Kind of serves as, you know, cover from everything, from all sides for the flankers. They can just hide behind here quickly and then, you know, flank whoever's standing on here. Now this building has gone through some changes. Now it is just a normal chalet, you know, a normal house with like a little bit of, you know, this is supposed to represent like logs stacked on top of each other. That's where they're like, so that's where there's like a slope in there, because well, you know, you don't stack logs like flat, and this would also like kind of make a more interesting gameplay situations where characters would have to crouch to hide behind here, and here you can stand and be safe. Same thing here, but in a slightly more weird angle. So then you come up, well, the development of this building I will talk about, but yeah, you can come up in here. You have a mini health pack in here, but again stowed away on this side, kind of to provide safety, like to give this feeling of safety when you get a health pack, but at the same time also force you to go away from this position, right? Which, you know, you have a lot of vision here, a lot of angles, and some pretty well protected high ground. But it's again very narrow, meaning that it's very uncomfortable for more than 2 players to stand in here. So very likely you're not going to see an entire team standing in here. But yeah, again, you have to leave this very advantageous position to go get the health pack, and then you can come back. So if you wanna, like, I stick to my philosophy, and I think also the philosophy of Overwatch in general, that if you want to heal or to be healed without having to use an ability or you know, ask a healer, well, you're gonna have to leave your like a good position, right? I'm just gonna talk about this main high ground here on the edge again. So this building right here, you know, very simple, is just meant as like a hide away, like supports can set up in here while the main team plays from here. They can spam here, but to also not leave them completely protected, there's an opening on the side right here where, you know, a flanker can easily surprise them. Right, and with the mini health pack in here, it's also the only health pack on this point. Well, okay, there's this other one that's also on the high ground, but it's this health pack here that's, you know, also on this high ground, the only health pack on the high ground here. And again, you have to leave the very advantageous position of that high ground to get to here. For this high ground, this one is not that crazy advantageous for whoever's standing here, so it's fine to leave the health pack here, in my opinion. Right, let's go to another version of the map. Much earlier one, to show you kind of the changes I made. So finally it has loaded. I'm just gonna stay in this mode because otherwise it's gonna lag too much. So this is I think the third ever version that I have of the map. So as you can see, we still have old point 8 here, and there's, you know, no hollowed out rooms or tunnels or whatever. Everything is still just blocks outside, like, you know, everything is just blocks. So there's no high ground on here, no cover here, and as you can see also, as I mentioned earlier, no elevation change. And you can see why I kind of dislike that. Like, look at this, it just looks it doesn't, you know, it doesn't look boring, but it also doesn't look as exciting as the elevation change, you know. The elevation change really brings something else in it, into this point, in my opinion. And like, because if you look from here, like, everything just kind of looks like it's on the same elevation. There's no real differences. You don't really see the depth between the little outlet of the high ground there and the wall behind, right? You don't really see that, and so I kind of put that in there to, you know, make it look better and also more natural, because, you know, especially in the mountains, it's very rare that you have a flat a flat natural floor. So yeah, that's why I put it in there. The bus stop was always in here, always planned as an option of like cover around here. It's just, you know, too simple. Then this building, I wanted it to be here from the beginning of the map, but I had no idea what to do with it. And so I started out by just doing like doing just this, you know, just take an edge out of the building and, you know, have it be a tunnel in here. And I thought to myself, like, what is it supposed to represent though? Like, what is this building going to be? On my paper map, it's even different. On my paper map, it says that there should be a high ground here, and there's an underpass right here. And well, if you know, look back to what I have now in the latest version, that's exactly what I got. I have an underpass and a high ground above it. And so that access kind of was born. I didn't know how to access that high ground yet. In this version, I really just was like, oh, I want to have a building here because I don't just want to have this whole front be open, and I also like visually want to guide the player around the corner. And the easiest way, or like the simplest way to do that in a village setting, is to put an angled building there, you know, that kind of like points into that direction, so to say. And well, that's what I did, and as I said, I didn't really know what to do with it. I had a few different ideas, like, you know, like just put a boutique there again, or just like a random shop or profession should have that building, but I didn't know what. And it's kind of important for buildings like this, where like they are so heavily integrated into gameplay. Like, let's say This building right here. There we go. There we go. This one. The one that I just clicked on. This one. This is, you know, a building. In the latest version, it's shown very well that this is a building. But there's no real, you know, it doesn't need to have a certain profession. You don't go inside it. You just stay outside of it. You don't have any funky shapes around it, right? It's just a cube in the map. And so kind of what textures or what theme you slap onto this cube doesn't really matter, right? It's not that important. You know, obviously it has to make sense in a village context, but you know, like this, like you can pick any building that would make sense in a village. Here, not necessarily, right? Like, because you have different, you have geometry that allows you to go inside the building and kind of create a flank with this building. And so you need to think of how, you know, does this building make sense? If I like, what could this building be if I take this chunk out of it, or, you know, put a tunnel here and whatever. And I struggled with this building a lot. I like spent an entire afternoon just figuring out what this building could be. Yeah, well, now, you know, it's just another normal chalet. Because this building is also going to be, or like, is a special building. It's a more formal building, you know, like you enter town, you have the first, like, you know, police station or fire station checking building, which is, you know, this was always also supposed to be the spawn, right? Like the doors coming here and here. Or like, actually, no, in this version, I didn't really know where I wanted to put the spawn. Originally, on my very first paper map, the spawn was going to be here. So this building would have an entrance, and the spawn was going to come out here. And the reason I put it here is because, so usually as a point A spawn, what you want to do is, like, once the player runs out of spawn, they want to be pointed in the right direction already. Like, you want to point them as a like, if you're a defender, you want to, in your preparation time, you want to be pointed in the direction that you are going to have to go to defend the point A, right? So if I, like, point A, if I were to if I were to point you, like, or like direct you out this door, you would have to, you know, make a U-turn to get to point A. And I didn't really enjoy that. Like, if I was like, maybe that confuses the player, right? Like, sure, I could have guided them into that direction, right? But still, it's again a little bit of a dangerous game. Also, if you spawn and you see the UI marker here, and like your instinct would say, oh, okay, you know, take the shortest way, you know, like, and you would try and go there, and you would realize, oh, there's no exit here. Why, right? Like, then I have to go around here. It's kind of tedious. So why not just, you know, have it point into that direction already, and then just have the spawn be there for you know, be pointed into the direction already, so that once you leave spawn, you immediately know, okay, this is the shortest way. I'm gonna go here, right? Like, just simplify things for the player. And that's why I put the spawn here in the end. Yes. Is there anything else to this building? No. And I think also that's it for the village part. So as you can see, there's also no exit here, because I thought, like, just having the tunnel go through here and exit here would already be, you know, enough for this flank, or enough control. And after all, like, this flank came in very, very late in development, and I felt, and why I did it was because I felt that this tunnel was way too restricted, kind of like, the flank was too restrictive, too predictable, and also once, like, I'm gonna go back to the other map to say this actually. So yeah, what I wanted to show you in this map, and again, sorry, I'm not going to press play, but it's just going to be too laggy on the PC with all the programs I have open. So let's say you go through here as a flanker, you annoy, let's say Tracer, right? You annoy, I don't know, you annoy the support standing here, and you annoy a little bit the team. You get damaged. You don't want to use your recall yet, so, and you cannot really take this health pack because the support has taken it. Well, what option do you have? Well, either you go around, like, well, you know, the nearest option is, well, you take this health pack, right? You jump down, take this health pack. How do you get back? You have, the only option you really have, or the shortest option you have as a Tracer, let's say, is go up here. And that's just very, very resource needy and annoying. And I wanted to avoid that. And also at the same time, if there's a fight happening here, you retreat here. There's no option for you to get on this high ground, except for, you know, crossing the sightlines again. And, well, you kind of want to, as a player, you know, want to make it onto a high ground a little safely, especially because this, if a fight is happening, you know, here or here, this little high ground is not that much of an advantage. Like, sure, with the health pack, it is a little bit more of an advantage, but it's not an insanely crazy advantage to go to have this here. And also, it just opens up the map a little more. You have the flow of, like, you see, let's say, you see the flanker enter, as a defender, you see the flanker enter the tunnel right here, right? You don't know if they're going to come out here or here, right? You don't know. What you do know is they're going to pass through here, right? But you don't know where they're going to go. And so it just leaves a little more play room for the flanker to have fun, you know, on the flank, right? To make a little more decisions on the flank. And that's why I opened up that little exit for the tunnel right there. Also, it's pretty protected. It's pretty narrow, so that it likely is kind of uncomfortable for for an entire team to use. So it doesn't really get used as an entire team rotation, I imagine. Could be. It's not impossible, but it's uncomfortable, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it for the first part of point B. So let's go to the second part. Second part is we have the ramp in here, right? The ramp. This ramp originally, if you looked at my first video and the paper map, was supposed to be a hairpin turn. This, as I mentioned in the video, having the hairpin turn in there would mean an extra fighting point in my map, which, I already have plenty of, right? There's this arena or like contesting point right here. There's this one that is, pretty big and very vague. This is just like a general area where there could be some brawling, which I personally really like because it's the second arena. It's the one that's, kind of equal to both spawns from distance. Wait, before I continue that, I'm gonna show you where the defenders spawn. So this is the defenders spawn room for point B. So when the payload is progressing on point B, this is the room where they are going to spawn inside this blue box cube room here. That's where they're going to spawn. So they're gonna have to make all that way down here, to this general fighting area. And so again, the reason why I took out the hairpin turn was because I already have 3 fighting points in my map, like this one, and this one. The final point, or like the checkpoint, is always a fighting point in itself. So yeah, this is what we have right here. And so I took the hairpin turn out, and it also made the map a lot shorter, which now it's on on normal hybrid map point B length. Before that, it wasn't. Before that, it was way longer, and with the hairpin turn, it just would have been too long, too many fighting points, and you know, it was sad to let it go, because I really like, points of contention, like that are like made with hairpin turns. I really like the ones on the Shambhali Monastery, where point B is literally just 2 hairpin turns. I really like that map. That is a great map. I wanted to do something like that as well, but yeah, didn't work out. So I just had the ramp and a small turn in there to break up sight lines. Really indicate, not just with the stone archway here and the mountain like kind of reaching over this part, you're kind of going through the mountain here. Not just with that, but also with a little bend in the road, showing like, hey, there's a new part coming up. Also, this shows to me just fits with a mountain, in my opinion, like having a really high elevation ramp. And what I personally really like to do, and you're going to see it later on this point as well, is I like to break up stairs, right? Because if you have one long stairway or ramp, let's imagine this was just one straight ramp without a landing in here. First of all, what would this mean? This would completely, without having a landing, I could not create this tunnel for this flank that I'm going to talk about later. Right? I couldn't create that without a landing. But more importantly, it also visually, it just wouldn't be pleasing. It would feel daunting, way too difficult and too steep for a player to tackle, to go up there. And so that's why you put the landing in there. It kind of it takes away some of the steepness and some of that daunting feeling of, oh my god, so many so many stairs. Kind of the feeling when you when you walk up to a temple, right, and you just see 1,000 stairs, 1,000 steps, and they put some landings in there, so you can take your breath, right? You can take a break and regain your breath, but also that it looks less, that it's less daunting, that you can slowly progress up in stages. One thing where they purposefully didn't do that actually was where I remember this from is Borderlands 2, when Claptrap has his whole monologue. I don't know if you guys know that scene. I don't know. I'm gonna link a video on the top right that shows that scene. Spoilers for Borderlands 2, by the way. So you're about to fight the main evil villain, the Handsome Jack. And Claptrap is having this whole monologue about how he's gonna, rip his throat out. I don't know exactly what he says, but he's pretty violent and he wants him dead. And his monologue gets interrupted by the doors opening and just showing and just 100 steps or more, a lot of stairs, without these landings in front of him. And then he cries that the stairs are his main enemy and he can't go up the stairs, which in itself is a funny moment. But the reason it works so well is because they didn't put a landing in there, which enforces or empowers this daunting feeling that a lot of stairs have. But enough rant about stairs and landings. That's the reason I put the landing in here. Is to eliminate that feeling of insane steepness and insane elevation gain, and also to enable this flank right here. So yeah, you come up here, there's a little high ground right here. The higher you want to be off the floor, or off the main ground for the payload path, the less vision you're going to have of the people coming up. This can serve as, cover really well, because, when you're standing here, you're harder to find, you're harder to see from this angle, right? Um, they might just see your head, and we all know a head hitbox is a lot harder to hit than the entire hitbox. And as well as that, you just have more stone wall covering you here, and it's just kind of this little alcove in a cave kind of situation that I really liked. I also wanted to, something I mentioned earlier on my point 8 choke is always like, how does Farah or how does Echo, how do characters with insane vertical mobility get through this, right? And if you look at this choke, like, oh, sure, they can fly above here, right? But that's really dangerous. You have the high ground right in front of you. Everyone is looking at you. Like, all the eyes of everyone standing on that high ground are going to be pointing at you because, well, they look down this straight and they just see you flying here. You're going to be shot. And so what I kind of wanted to do is also put a hole in the wall here, so you kind of have this spam angle as a Farah. You can fly around here, spam, fly around here, spam. You can even even as a Genji, just climb up here and surprise the team the members of the team that are standing right here. All of that works with this little flank. Even as even if you want to be a cool Widowmaker and do a cool trick shot through this hole, you can even stand in here. So I want to make it that you can, the purpose is that you can stand in there, so you can also stand in that window as a Widowmaker and, challenge the other Widowmaker on here. It's dangerous but doable, and I don't know, I think this little hole just opens up a lot of possibilities for characters with insane vertical mobility that maybe cannot really use it due to the stone arch here. And so, yeah, I just found this a really cool idea. So let's go to the right lane. Yeah, let's go to the right lane at first. So here we have stairs again with landings, multiple, 2 this time. This is just, a standard tunnel. Again, I wanted to have this I wanted to make sure that I have this theme breakup. Okay, here's the village, and we break up the theme. Bam, here's the forest, right? You're instantly inside the forest. That's why I used the tunnel, to have kind of a transition, and bam, we're in the forest. And the forest is this, twisty, flanky lane. A lot of different elevation, a lot of landings, right? Very, a lot of different single instances of cover being placed, right? The trees, but in general, it's a very open area, an area for characters with movement abilities to just have a lot of fun. Down here, what I imagine is a valley with a small lake in it, or a ravine with a dangerous I don't know how you call them exactly, the very fast small rivers, the currents, the very strong currents, just ripping through there, and then having a waterfall coming out on this side. Again, as I said, I'm not a level artist, so I can only try or dream and do that. I can try and do it with gray boxes, but I'm not a level artist, so gonna be rather difficult to do that. But if anyone wants to collab, hit me up. I'm all open for collabs. So yeah, this forest part this forest flank along this strong current and with the ravine in that, I really, really, really wanted to have that in there. I just thought of it in my head, and just the idea of having this guerrilla warfare feeling of jungle, dense forest, and then flanking inside a dense forest, hiding, sneaking up on an enemy, you know, literally like guerrilla warfare feeling. I was like, yeah, that's an exciting feeling I want to have in my map. And although it's not as like tight as a jungle is, I guess, and it's not as narrow, and the trees are not as close to one another as they are like in a jungle, for example, in Crysis or Far Cry. It's still, you know, like I think it evokes the feeling to the best capabilities of what Overwatch's game rules allow. Yeah, I just wanted to leave this area very open. You know, not a lot of walls in here. Just, you know, because there's no walls in a forest, right? That thematically doesn't really make sense. And also having these parts, you know, I'm a Lucio main. I'll come out and say it. I'm a Lucio main. Just having the opportunity to boop people off the map very easily. I mean, come on, man. I gotta have my fun with my own map too, and my favorite character. So, that's kind of, well, it's not the main thought process, but you know, it's kind of a little bit what added to it. I really like death zone delimiters, so that's why I put that one there. Yeah. So you come up these stairs. You can choose whether you want to, you know, continue along this flank with a mega health pack and, you know, a little stowaway corner where you can hide from this high ground, you know, from everyone who's standing on this high ground. And then you can go and flank them, you know, use the stairs to come up here, or, well, you know, use the other stairs. You can't really come inside. Well, there's no real way from inside here to go up there. But yeah, we have that. Or you can come up here, you know, landing, and then flank whoever's standing here from behind. Maybe there's also a support, like hiding here, you know, like using the stairs as cover from whoever's coming up here. I also really like that, using, you know that already, like I've done this a few times, but like using different elevations as hiding places. So not just putting a wall in front of the player and being like, hey, you can hide behind here, but also like you put a stair and the player can then, you know, slowly get into cover, slowly get out of cover, using just simply the elevation. You know, getting on a different elevation, meaning that, okay, someone below me cannot see me right now. Right, so that's kind of also the thought process behind this. Then the highlight, the main focus point. You may have asked yourself already what this is supposed to represent, of this point. So you come up here, and it's also, you know, come up here, bam, it's angled, it's directly in your view, it's straight there. This is the this is an Omnic corpse, so to say. So this is one of the this is one of the big Omnics that attacked during the you know, recent null sector resurgence that Overwatch 2 is, you know, playing in terms of a timeline. You know, it's in that timeline of after the null sector resurgence, and it's one of the big boys that was attacking this small village here. And like the other remains, the Overwatch team was already able to like take them away and clean that up. But you know, the big one takes a little bit more time, and right, that's why it's still here. It breaks up the natural feeling beautifully. It again transitions a little into this like sci-fi, like futuristic, you know, war military of what Overwatch is, right? Like this, it kind of has this, like, you know, this military kind of feeling to it, and well, that's what the robot transitions to as well. It also, as I said, it breaks up the theme of just natural forest really, really well. And it's like it just catches your eye when you look at it, and you're like, okay, like I gotta get up here. And then once you get up here, the payload turns again, and you see the Overwatch headquarters here. So it's really to guide your eyes, to guide you as the player towards, or like along the critical path. You have this little lip that goes in here. You can jump off here. You cannot jump back on with most characters, like only with characters that have vertical mobility. You can, or like just mobility, like just, movement abilities in general. I think that's everything to the forest part, right? So let's take the cave. The cave was originally on the paper map, or like in first iterations, it was supposed to be bigger, or like and have more tunnels, be more twisty, more high grounds. But as I said, I had to take out the hairpin turn, and that really like shortened the cave part, because more than the cave part, I really wanted the forest part in there. And so I was like, okay, so I got to set priorities, right? So the cave gets smaller. And so I put the cave as its own little lane on the side. The cave has 4 different entrances. So this one, which kind of serves as a high ground as well when you're coming from the other way, right? You can use this as a high ground, shoot people playing right here, on the payload, or even like just coming out of the flank here. And it's only reachable for characters with vertical mobility, right? But, don't you worry. If you are an Overwatch hero with no real vertical mobility, don't you worry. You can go up this ramp, onto the first landing, into the tunnel, and you're immediately there as well. So it's not an extremely safe position, but it is an advantage position nonetheless. And easily reachable for everyone. Just you have to take different paths based on your abilities. Now, we come in here, little health pack, like small health pack in here, far away from any advantage point again. So you have to leave your advantage point if you want this. Also, if you are a tracer, a sombra, whatever, a flanker, and you've been damaged on your attempt on trying to flank the enemy support or team, don't you worry, the 75 HP got you covered. Another entrance here, right in front of the checkpoint, so you can flank around here and come out just behind the checkpoint and just under the main high ground for the defenders. As well as, you might have seen it already in the corner of our eye, you can go in here, again, as you can see, I'm a fan of landings. You come up here, bam, bam, and you flanked the high ground. This is the second access to the high ground. So there's 2 accesses to this high ground. There's that one and this one on the side. Like the stairs here and this access. I really like this access inside. It reminds me a lot of Watchpoint Gibraltar. And also, I just like this, this also reminds me just in general a lot of Watchpoint Gibraltar. Like the inside, like having this alcove inside of a big rock, a big mountain. It just, it looks cool. It feels cool. I really like it. I like that you cannot see down here from the high ground, so you have to make the commitment of going down the stairs, going onto the first landing to see into the tunnel, as well as, from the tunnel you cannot see up there until you get to the first landing. So you have to make some sort of commitment, and again, it serves as a delimiter from, like more than just this entrance. It's also like, okay, I have to go up the stairs. Okay, now I'm on the flank. Now now I'm in danger territory. Same goes for supports. It's like, okay, now I'm checking for danger. It's like this elevation indicator. Then the checkpoint, I think, is the only thing that's left here. Same with, well, checkpoint with the high ground. I'll go with the high grounds first. High ground here, you know, spacious, lets an entire team be on here. Again, this is similar to the one we had over here, right? Similar to this area, you know, again, this is not meant for an entire team to hide in here. It's just a kind of a safe position to spam the point for like a single character or maybe even two, but the rest of the team stands on here or can stand on here and defend pretty well. Again, though, you cannot defend the point, or you cannot contest the point while you're up there. So what it means, you know, you gotta decide: do we contest now? Do we stay on our advantage point? I showed you the access to this point, but you know, these high grounds are connected. They also lead into point C, which I'm going to talk about later. But yeah, you have these high grounds. They're connected, leading into point C. Two different elevations, right? Because this one is, you know, we have different elevation as well on these floors, right? Like this side entrance is, you know, is set lower than the main point B. So I also set the high ground lower to keep the difference kind of the same. And also to, you know, if, you know, to like not have everyone jump over to the side here. Again, you need to make the commitment of a movement ability, to use a movement ability to get from this one to this high ground. Yeah. The high ground here, mainly meant for like, you know, snipers. You have a nice angle, like viewing angle on here. You don't really see though what's on the floor there, so you only see on the high ground here. You see everything that's coming up on the flank here. You're pretty exposed, but again, you have a lot of view as well, so a lot of vision, I guess, as well. So, you know, up to you if you prefer this or not. Yeah, I guess that's this high ground. We have the mega health pack here as well on the very edge. Again, forcing you to go away from every single advantage, like forcing you away from every single advantage point you could have, right? And then you'd have to go to the mega health pack. I guess you could stand here as a sniper and snipe the point, but you know, people could just hide behind the payload and push the payload along. So, you know, it doesn't really mean that it's a crazy advantage point. And yeah, again, just having different elevation to break up, you know, the third lane, you know, that's represented on a lower elevation, and the main lane, the payload path, however you want to call it, on a higher elevation, right? So again, you have this delimiter that's just, you know, going up a ramp, like, oh, okay, now I'm on the main lane, just to indicate that there's a change in gameplay again. So yeah, what I wanted to talk about in the video as well is why is the point here. The capture point is now here, because again, I mentioned earlier I had to cut the hairpin turn because point B was too long, as well as, well, originally I'm going to mimic the payload path coming up here, how I wanted to have it originally. Turn like this, and then a 180, and you enter like this. Problem with that, again, map was too long, and so I had to, well, move it. I moved it over here. I thought it still made sense, right? You know, you get a little bit of a choke point with the rocks in here, you know, narrowing the road a little. You have the high grounds on the side here, right? Like all around the point. Just so that you really get this feeling of, okay, there's this, well, not just a feeling, but that I create a fighting point around this point as well. Originally, these high grounds were connected, and there was a satellite dish where this tree is here right now, but I removed that because, well, one, you could stand around the satellite dish, and standing around the satellite dish gave you as a sniper, it gave you an insane sightline that was impossible to block, or to give any cover to. I couldn't put any cover there because the payload path is here. And I was like, well, I'll just remove it because this sightline is straight up unfair and not fun to play against. Because you can genuinely see everything, and I cannot block any of the sightline because, well, the payload has to go that way. And originally I wanted to keep these high grounds connected, but multiple things. One, I thought it looked, well, less, I thought it would look less interesting or less visually pleasing than, having two high grounds on different elevation. And two, it's more interesting to have, this kind of surprise of, a flanker not just being able to, dip in and out of the corner, annoying your team, but having to make the commitment to, use a movement ability to annoy your team, or come through the predictable entrance, or, go back and all the way around through this entrance again, Yeah. Then originally the payload point, the checkpoint should have been here, on this side, but as I said, map was too long, and so I moved it over here, which still makes sense, and it still feels very point B ish, checkpointy. This is just, again, a payload reference just to see for myself if this is high enough to get through. So you dip down again, elevation change indicating that, okay, you're in a new part of town, in a new part of the map. Okay. One more thing I wanna say before we get to point C is kind of the door, so to say, that you need to get through to get to point C. In Overwatch, it's always, often like this, that if you go from point B to point C, or generally just you capture a checkpoint with a payload, you have to wait for a door to open, or I don't know, for the payload to do a 90-degree turn before it can go on. And so here, my teacher had this idea, actually. It was really cool. You have this construction wagon, this construction wagon that's in the way. I need to detail it so it looks a little more like a construction wagon. But yeah, you have this construction wagon that's in the way, and payload can't get through, and so payload honks and it gets out of the way, and then you can continue pushing the payload into point C. Yeah. That's point B, I think. Yeah, that's everything I had to say for point B. Let's go for point C. So yeah, now I want to talk about point C. Point C is entirely inside the new Overwatch headquarters. So the entire theme of point C is being an active construction site. As you can see, everything's being constructed here. Everything's still in development, a work in progress. Literally in the sense of my map is a work in progress, and figuratively in the sense of theme is a work in progress. But I'm going to go through it bit by bit. So first of all, the access to point C. So first we have, the main entrance, the one where the payload goes through. Then obviously through these stairs, we can get onto this high ground, which gives us access to the point C building. Same as, these stairs. Also access to the high ground here. And voila, the access down below. So this right here, I'll come back to it later. This is the attacker's spawn room for point C. So yeah, here's where the attackers will spawn after they've captured point B. Now we go up, and we come onto the first high ground. This is likely to be used by the attackers after they've captured point B. I really like the principle in Overwatch where they use high grounds that show kind of how far we are in the map by who they're being used. So what that means is this high ground is advantageous to attackers, to defenders. You know, it's advantageous to defenders when point B has not been captured yet, but once point B has been captured, this high ground is very advantageous to or for the attackers, because the defenders spawn much further back, and you as an attacker spawn right next to the stairs to come up here, which is also why the stairs are here. So that this is really like an attacker advantageous position. Yeah, the high ground's cut a little here. I don't know. I didn't like having sharp edges there. That's why I like kind of cut the edges mostly. Also, it just kind of looks smoother with like the edges coming out here of the building in itself. Having flat walls here is, uninteresting in my opinion, and to make it more visually pleasing, give it a little more depth, I kind of made this part stand out, which makes this part stand out, which allows us to, or allows me to make the high ground this long, so you can stand up until here. This is the sight line from here. You have a little bit of cover in the arm of this construction vehicle, this excavator, and this side, is also here to, challenge whatever's on the opposite high ground over there. They're almost not almost, they are on the same height, so no real crazy advantage or disadvantage. So it's just to spam a little bit before moving the cart, or even if defender's team thinks that it's a good idea to defend in the corner that I'm looking at, well, you can force them back, right? So that's this high ground. We payload comes through here along this payload path. We have the the right now not so detailed construction vehicle that moves out of the way, and then we have the excavator here. I really wanted like a variety of different construction vehicles to use them as cover. One, to show that this is a construction site, and two, they just are very useful as cover. Like you can you can use them very easily as cover. Yeah, and so you have this cover right here. If you come in from here, you can't get sniped immediately. You'll have to peek either left or right to be seen from that high ground there. I try to, as I said, like go for a variety of construction vehicles. I kind of placed them later on in development, as I did with all cover, but we can go through it like this right now. So another thing I want to talk about was these pillars. It's kind of all the cover you will see here is a mixture of three things mainly. Is construction vehicles. They're marked in yellow. You have the boxes, like the typical Overwatch boxes, that you see everywhere in Overwatch. They're just the orange crates here. And you have these pillars that go up. Like they're unfinished, they're still in construction. Some of them already are finished, right? They go up until the ceiling or the stone, right? But most of them don't. And these are actually directly nabbed, so to say, from Watchpoint Gibraltar. So they used pillars there as well, that had the same shape as this, and I saw them and I thought to myself, oh well, quite an interesting shape, quite a nice shape, you know. I think I can do a lot with this, and well, guess what? I'm doing a lot with this. I have to move my mic a little closer. There we go. Yeah. Also, we are halfway inside of, like, we are inside of a mountain in this base here. This is why you see these stalactites falling from the ceiling, as well as, you know, stone everywhere, rocks everywhere. I'm gonna detail this a little more. Like, gonna put more rocks, like a more rocky, like, geometry and texture in here. But yeah, it's mainly, you know, just to right now, just to like show in general that this is just a big cave, so to say, a man-made cave. So the difference here is you can see, like, the floor would be made out of metal, similar to the texture that, like, or the material that they use on the King's Row floors, right? Like, just so or like the Watchpoint Gibraltar floors, just to like show, okay, this is still, after all, Overwatch, and still what they use their usual materials for construction. You have these support walls that, like, kind of come out and or like go in a little. I like to do them like this because, you know, you can delimit this flanking, like, you can make this flanking path more interesting, like let it look more interesting, more visually pleasing. You can give a little bit of hiding space from people coming here, right? Like, they can still see you earlier than if this was a 90-degree corner, but and as well, it just looks better than just a 90-degree angle. And also, it kind of guides the player towards, like, looking at this high ground. You know, pay attention, you're out of cover if you stand in this position, and that's why I put him up like this. This little alcove here, like signaling, okay, this, you know, safety. Here's safety. You're not going to be hit on the high ground here. Small health pack again next to the advantage point, but, you know, you need to get off of the advantage point to get the health pack. Again, also at the end of a flank, if you've been spotted, if you've gotten if you have received some stray damage, well, here you go, 75 HP to top you up. Right, so now, yeah, going down here is where the payload path goes. I really like this ramp down. This entire time, the player has only been going upwards, and I thought to myself, well, if they only go up, at some point, you know, you want to let them go down as well. So why did I want to let them go down again? Well, it kind of serves as this, like, it's like in a song. You know, before the beat drops, you know, before you get the hook, you know, there's a little dip in the action, and then it ramps up to, like, build up the beat, the drop. Well, I kind of wanted to achieve the same thing. You know, we've been going up, like we've been ramping up the entire map, like it's always just been going upwards. Well, let's go down to, like, prepare, you know, to commit to the big finale, right? We go up for the big finale again, but this, like, going down has more impact. It also makes the high ground here like more severe, I guess, but, like, the verticality just increases. It also clearly defines, you know, where is the flank and where is the main payload path, as well as on the left side as well. Here it's even clearer because we go up, and just, you know, I really liked the difference between every single lane having a different elevation, right? You have the, let's say, ground, you know, like, let's say main elevation is this, right? So you have the right flank on the main elevation, the main lane on the lowest elevation, and then the left flank on the highest elevation, right? I really like that. So that's why I made them go down here. As you can see, they come back up again, and then we will go up here. Yeah, actually, we will go up here to this high ground. So first of all, I'm going to show you guys this from the side. You can see, pretty simple. It's, just stairs with a landing once again, going over a bridge and then going up to the final high ground, or like the big high ground here. And this again is a high ground that once you've come to this point, it's an advantage for the attackers to use it. But up until that point, it's an advantage for the defenders because, they come out of their spawn, which is, behind this big control room, or control room. They come out of the spawn and immediately gain access to this high ground. Yeah, you come here, you have the little landing, you have a little bit of cover. This is going to be after detailing it's going to look more clear, but this is going to be a little see-through as well, because it's going to be one of the scaffoldings that the workers use to work on the bridge here. And so we just, we go up, where you can jump to the left here and, just go over the bridge. It's wide enough so that an entire team can attack it, but at the same time, it's not extremely wide as to make it look like weird and unnatural. I could make it wider. I think a little wider is still possible, but I think that this is a fine width for the access for the high ground here. A lot of space on this high ground, or like behind the cover at least, a lot of space. If you have a fight around here with like a team-on-team fight, there's enough space for that up here. This high ground was kind of the first thing that developed from point C. That was like the first thing that was this clear on point C. When I envisioned it in my head for the first time, I thought to myself that, okay, once I come in, I have this left-hand bend, and I will see a big high ground where the defenders would already stand on. That was the very first thing that I kind of thought of was, having this big high ground. I wanted to make it higher originally, but, then when I placed it like this, I realized, could be too high, could be too unnatural if I do it. And so that's another reason for why I put the dip in the slope downwards in the payload path, just to increase this verticality feeling that you get. So also, that if you're down here, you're not going to be excluded from going to the flank here. Not a stair here, but you need to jump up, force a little player action. Originally, this was completely closed, so that this was the only way up here. But I thought to myself, first of all, that looks really ugly. Second, the verticality does not show as much as I want it to if this is completely closed. And so I opened it up and put a stairway here, so that you can get, or put some stairs here so that you can go into this room to, just access this room, access this flank right here. Right. I might actually switch to an earlier version right now of point 2. I think that's an idea. Yeah, I'll switch to an earlier version and show you this first part in kind of an earlier version, and then we'll go on with the second part of point C. Here we are. This is the very first built version of point C. So a lot of differences already in this very first version. So first of all, this, what used to be a door, is now a window. And I thought to myself, well, this is kind of silly that it's just a window, right? Like, you can jump through, but, why not just make it a door? You're just making it a little more difficult for players to pass through here, and especially if you want to have... Well, back then I didn't put the spawn of the attackers here yet. That wasn't in the plan, and so I wanted to put it somewhere here. I didn't know where exactly, and so that was not part of my thinking, but yeah. Now it's a door. I think it just suits it better. A window makes this is really awkward here. Also, you see an entrance here and an entrance up here. What this was a stairway to get access to the high ground from inside, which would be a third access to the high ground. So you had 1, 2, and then the third one here. I ended up not doing this one because I felt like the high ground was too accessible. The reason why I removed it was because, well, I put the spawn of the defenders inside this building, right? And so every time that they would leave this building, they would just straight up go onto the high ground because, you know, there's no... They don't need to take a long way around, right? Because, let's be honest, like, if the fight is on point B, you know, if the fight is on point B, and a defender, you know, comes back from spawn, they, like, if they go through this door, up these stairs, that's not really a hotly contested area, right? Like, going up these stairs, so on. So, it's much more of a dangerous decision now with the stairs here gone. It's much more of a dangerous decision, and it requires more thinking. Like, okay, do I want to make the time investment to go to the high ground, or does my team need me on the point? Rather than with like this, it would almost always just be I go on the high ground, all I lose is like a second or 1.5 seconds. So it's not that much, right? And now it's a significant time investment, so it really... It also prevents like endless stall fights, right? And so I removed this one right here for those reasons. As you can see, there wasn't any cover in this version yet. Yeah, no cover yet. This was really just to get a grip, get a feeling of what point C should look like. As I said earlier, this was completely closed, and this stayed like this for quite a long time. I'll show you later. And yeah, this is already the second part of point C. Already also pretty empty, but I'll show more in detail later when we get to that part. But yeah, I'll go to the next version right now. So here we are in the later version. As you can see, already with more cover. Not all the cover has been in here yet, but you know, some of it has been implemented. Here is also the first version where I implemented this break here. This is already a much later version with a lot more cover, as I said. But as you can see, the high ground also used to look different. I wanted the high ground to be very, very open and like a very brawly area. But what I also realized is that if I have the high ground open like this, first of all, this pillar looks really bad like this. It has the normal dimensions of this pillar, but you know, a little more thick because it's two-sided. And the issue I had with this was, first of all, the pillar looks really ugly. Also like looking from here, this just looks really ugly. And second, we'll go up here, right? So you have a lot of space here, but you have no cover at all. So as I mentioned earlier already, back on point B on the main high ground, in Overwatch 2, it's much more important to give players solid cover because there's less shields, or there are less shields in the game. So there's less protection made by players. So you really have to rely on cover sometimes, and that's why I changed the cover for like a little bit of a different scaffolding, right? Like some scaffolding that you would find on Midtown, for example. That's what's now on here. But yeah, this is one of the earlier, this is one of the versions in between that, in between those two versions where I changed that. Yeah, that's it for the first part. Well, let's go to the second part. Right, so we're now coming in for the second part of point C, again with 3 lanes. So we had the first, the left lane here, the main lane that goes down here, and the right lane that goes over there. Well, the left lane also branches off to here, also branches from here. We slowly come back up, have a landing, and slowly come back up again. This, the reason why I have this main lane, like ramping up slower again, is to make it less noticeable. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I like landings, and the feeling of going up here is less daunting, as well as if you present the as you can see, like you make the final turn here on this elevation, and the final point, the big final arena, just is presented that much more epic and grand when it's even higher above you. Even if it's just 100 units now in Unreal Engine, it still makes quite the difference. Like looking up like this, also this kind of guides your eyes upwards to look at the big finale here. Right, so also we have the flank on the left here, a little bit of cover here from the other flank and from whoever's standing in this corner. Also just breaking up the path, breaking up the visuals, making the wall look less boring and ugly. Then onto this left side. This left side had quite the development. So you can see the high ground up there. I'm actually going to go up there right now. Right, here we go. You can see the high ground up here. Very small high ground, like for 1, maybe 2 players. Well, this high ground used to have a stair access as well in the wall. So an entrance would go from here to down here where the pillar would be. And maybe even, I was still thinking of that, having the entrance be accessible from that side over there, from like having another entrance into that stairway here, and then having just an entire corridor behind the wall there to go up there. Reason why I didn't do that, and that's actually the main reason why I didn't do it, there's no space. There's physically no space for this corridor to exist. So I had to cut it, but I'm honestly pretty happy about it, because this high ground is then, really just accessible for characters with vertical mobility. And looking at the sightlines for this, well, and how much space there is here, I think that's a good decision. And I think the high ground was, after all, pretty well done, even with those considerations in mind. So, right, now we're back on the ground again. We're going to go into the left flanking lane. So this, has an access, a vertical access as well, to this high ground, where, people from the high ground can drop down, get a health pack, get healed up again and go back up again when they have, or like if they have vertical mobility, as again, as I do very often, go away from your advantage point to get healed again. And this room right here, this is Winston's new room. So that's also the reason why, there's windows up here, and well, that actually up there is a missing panel, because it's still under construction, and there's why a window up here and a window up here, and a lot of different windows and doors on different elevations, is because this is Winston's room. And Winston, as we know, is a monkey. He likes to climb. He literally has a jetpack with which he can boost through the air. So, well, only makes sense to have a room with a lot of space above it to be Winston's room. This right here would be one of those hydroponic labs that you can also see on the transition from point A to point B in Horizon Lunar Colony. Like one of those shelves. That's just, to have like a see-through room splitter. And also, like prevent like being able to shoot straight through the room. And here we have a beautiful bit of cover, which also could be like, I don't know, like a turning hydroponic shelf, or just a shelf with other science experiments of Winston. And yeah, so this would be his like science room. I would imagine him to be, sleeping up here. Sleeping up here. Probably make a sleeping corner, with all kinds of models. But as I mentioned, I'm not a level artist. I don't do models. So, yeah, what we have here is lots of different elevation in this room. Again, I wanted to really differentiate between the lanes in using different elevation, even if it's just, a little bit. But, you can also jump up here. So you don't need to take the ramp. It's just the ramp makes it more inviting. Like the ramp, looking at it right here, it invites you to go over here. It tells you, oh, you can go over here, right? Not just the jump up, but you could theoretically also just jump. This bit right here, a little bit of extra high ground, right? You can use this to your advantage when you're when either the enemy team, when you're the defender, the enemy team is pushing in. The attacker team is pushing in. You can use this to your advantage. Has very poor sightlines for that, but it has great sightlines if you need to defend, or like if you need to like make the final push, the payload. Let's say it's right here, 2 meters before completion. We set up a soldier here, and he just shoots everyone down from the high ground. We gain access of the area and win the game. But yeah, having that little bit of extra elevation also differentiates it. You can also just quickly jump down. And the reason we have this window right here, so that, someone with vertical mobility from the defenders can immediately come from spawn, get up here onto the scaffolding and jump into this window so that they can surprise whoever is standing here. So this position should not be shooting directly into spawn. That's why I didn't put the window down here. I don't want a position like that to shoot directly into spawn. So the window is up here so that it's still accessible for the defenders, but you don't have any sightlines on the people coming out of spawn. Especially because this is a room with a mega health pack in it. And again, need to leave your advantage position to get the health pack. Also, the reason I like this scaffolding so much is because it serves like it's first of all, it has a different color, which pronounces it much more, and second, it shows you, like, you can really see this as like a 3-step stair. So 1 step, 2 step, and then okay, I get to the window. So it's like, okay, you come out here, you see the window, you're not sure if you're supposed to go in there, but the stairs in quotation marks here are inviting you to go and surprise whoever's in there. Right. That would be Winston's room. Winston's room actually hasn't gone through a lot of development. It just kind of, I just built it, and the only thing that was added late was this thing right here, because it really bothered me that you could just shoot straight through the room from either side. And so but I didn't want to block the vision, so I was like, hey, they have these hydroponic shelves. I really like those. Let's put one in there, because, Winston probably likes them. Yes, so that's that. Let's go over to the other flank. Let's go through the other flank. Right, we go up here. Bam, bam. We come into this room, which previously was the defenders spawn when point B wasn't captured. So you can come in here from both sides, have one door, see the other door immediately here, and a small health pack, again to reward going through the map as a flanker, or if you're catching stray damage, don't worry, you get a small health pack. Come in here, small high ground again in this room. More interesting stairs than just stairs leading up to here. You have to keep the door in your view, look away from the door, maybe if you want to go like this and then come up here, for the immediate reveal of this corner. You see the box, the health pack, and the spawn doors coming in here. I like the box also kind of guides you, kind of splits up the path, like which way you want to go. You want to go into the defender's spawn, which as an attacker, not possible. Or you want to go to the health pack, go take the health pack. And then you also come out, you see the stairs, the flanking access to this big high ground here. I actually didn't show this, but you can also jump up on the scaffolding here. You have 0 cover, but all the vision in the world. So if you want to do this, there we go. Kind of built this just for you then. Also, you have the cover of the pillars, where one full character can hide behind, but it's difficult to fully hide behind these. I really like the shape of these pillars. They just look super, super interesting. I think that's this corner, honestly. There's not really much to say here, except for that I imagine this to be like a place. You come out here as a defender and you're doing the last you're doing the very last your very last stand against the attackers who have almost pushed it in, and your support or your soldier, your hit scan DPS, your whatever sets up here with the small health pack, comes back into fight, right? Like a really stressful situation. And just great vision on the final point, not so great vision onto everything else. You can be sniped here from the high ground back there. Everything of that has been kept in mind, so that really creates a very stressful final and brawly final gameplay situation, like a really a final stance feeling. We can go shortly into very briefly into the defenders spawn, their final spawn. Not really that interesting. It's just a cave behind the control room I showed you there, and then on the one side we have kind of a stone stairway leading into these metal supported rooms, and we have here the cleaner stairway where you see this in the geometry. It's already a lot more natural. It's not a 90-degree angle. It's a very 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 shifty angle. The geometry is not really that cleaned up, while here it's very 90-degree angle. You see that this part has already been built, so that you clearly know which side you come out of. This high ground as well, it's a little higher than the other one, but also a little smaller, or a little less spacious. It also doesn't have cover or a health pack, which then kind of makes this decision, gives you this decision of, okay, which high ground do you want to go on? Do you want to go to the more protected one, or do you want to go to the one that gives you more of an advantage over your enemies? All right. Also, again, from here you can access this other advantage position, which very hard to do from the other side, obviously. Then we have the crane. The crane is an interesting one. The crane was he's shifted positions quite a lot, because I was never sure where to put him. Talked a lot with my teacher about this, and we finally decided to put him on this side. So you do have a little bit of cover coming from cover from this extremely long sideline. You have a little bit of cover, so you can while you're on this edge of the high ground, you're unless you go on this very very edge, you are safe from whatever's coming down from the main lane. While if you want to shoot the main lane, you go on this side of the stairs. The crane itself, I really wanted it to be here because, well, we deliver the construction materials, and crane's right next to the place where we need to take the construction materials and like apply them to some place around here, construct something. We take the construction materials from the payload, and with using the crane. So it should always have been either here or where this orange box is right next to the final point. One of those two places. I always swap them around because, I'm going to go to the other high ground here. Exactly, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to have this long sightline to the final high ground there, or like to the small high ground over there, the one that with only vertical mobility access. But in the end, I decided to keep it on that side because I felt like the other high ground was like it's a much cooler high ground if it once again is like one of these shifty high ground, or like shifting high grounds. You know what I mean? Like again, like a high ground that is good, like advantageous for defenders until we get to a certain point where the attackers have easier access, or more from this high ground, which this high ground now has. It's a good high ground for defenders when the attackers are coming around this corner, but it's a better high ground for attackers when they've pushed the payload to like this point. Then they can put a sniper up there and they can keep the point and this entire high ground in check. While here, this place, it benefits a lot from the crane being here. You can have your cover right here from the high ground. Like people from the high ground can't really shoot you that easily, but you can shoot down mid, and well, you're protected from mid while you can shoot the high ground and the point right here. So kind of to create this split between an even better split between these two elevated grounds. Also stairs for if access is needed for attackers, so that if the attackers want to come up here and annoy you, well, they are allowed to. Or if you want to go back up on the high ground after jumping down, you're allowed to. This again is probably going to be the same construction vehicle as the one that's gonna move out of your way after capturing point B. I haven't defined yet what it is, and I haven't detailed it yet, but I know that it's gonna be the same thing. So it's just to give you a little bit of cover behind the point here, so that if you as a defender are fighting on the point, another teammate comes in to tag the payload, you can like go behind here, get healed by your supports, and then go back into the fight, or maybe even hide from the sniper. You can jump behind here, like if the sniper's up there, jump behind here and go to the other side uncontested, again to like create and help this very brawly, chaotic feeling of a final fight. I wanted to keep this final box though still, like, because down here you need the cover from this high ground, or just generally cover to play around for this final point. I kind of want to, I really like this. I kind of want to keep it. It gives you a lot of room, like, now you can shoot this, and now you can shoot this safely, now you can shoot this safely, now you can shoot this almost safely, annoy people here. Makeshift stairs if you don't want to go up this stairs because you don't want to be predictable. Who knows? Also just to fill the corner here and make it look less boring, and less like 90 degrees cornery, fill it with boxes. And yes, I think that's mainly it. I think that is the final point. Yeah, that is point C. we're going to go through some older iterations now to kind of show you the development of it. But I think that's everything I wanted to say here. So here we have the very first iteration of the final point. As you can see, Crane was meant to stand on the left side here still. Yeah, just quickly play from here. As you can see, you know, blocks off the high ground there entirely and makes it feel a little useless and weird. This cover also didn't exist yet, you know, as I said, cover joined very late, or like cover was built very late. But yeah, there you see the stair entrance, the like entrance that was meant for the stairs that were gonna go on this left side. You also see that there was no like a dip in here. Again, I did that same reason I did it here, to make this more inviting, you know, like give this feeling of, oh, okay, you know, I can go up here, like, as I said, like make it more inviting. Also, it was just generally really unfinished, you know, no roof, nothing. But here you can see also no hydroponic shelf. So the problem I mentioned, like you can just shoot straight through this, which I didn't really like that. Just gave me a wrong feeling, so to say, and that's why I put the hydroponic thing there. Also, there was no control room. The reason I added the control room was because when you turn the corner here and you look at this, it feels really lackluster, right? Like it feels like there's something missing. Like this does not represent a like final point in Overwatch. Like you think of King's Row, you see the final point with the big like Tesla coil coming down from above. You see Eichenwald, like the big throne room, you know, where you come in. And here it's like without the control room, it's just like, oh, this is just a big space, I guess, you know. And so I later on added the control room to give it a little bit more meaning and to have a little bit more of a grander feeling when you turn this corner. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of still the same point. As I said, like Winston's room stayed largely the same. I'm gonna go through the next iterations to see what really changed there, and then we're gonna see. Right, so we are in a little bit of a later version. I think this is version 5 of the map overall. As you can see, hydroponics lab has been added. So the Winston's room is pretty much, you know, from its geometry almost finished. I raised these walls up. I originally wanted to keep him like this, but then later I felt like, it just looks very unclean, like very dirty, very, very ugly if I do that. The lip was still not in here and wasn't in there as well in this version. Crane has already changed sides though, and I already planned out where I wanted the control room to be. This truck was not angled though, as you can see. I don't know, I just felt like first of all, it didn't stand out when looking at it from this. It just looked like a texture bug, if you look at it like this. And so it was like, okay, if we angle it, we can see that it's a truck, you know, it's something different, and it doesn't just feel like running into a flat wall. And so that's what I did. Also, you can see corner is a lot more boring without the boxes here, so that's why I put them there. Yeah, I think for the rest, it's still kind of the same as the final version right here. Yeah, let's go to the next one. So here we go. Version 7 this is now. We have the first iteration of the, you know, beautiful control room, and I have to say that already makes a big difference. You know, look at that. Wow, much more impressive. You know, still I think the truck has been turned. You know, looks one more inviting to go here, and two, looks a little, you know, not a lot, but a little less like a flat wall or like a texture bug. We also have the little dip now in here, you know. You can see how much more inviting this already is to this flank. Like you can draw the path in your brain from here to the entrance, like from here to the entrance of the of Winston's room. Right, we go in here. Nothing has really changed. Yeah, I moved the crane a little more towards here. The crane has had a lot of micro adjustments in its time. But yeah, this is, I think, roughly the place where it stands in right now as well. Yeah. And then we have the first iteration of the spawn without a roof. So yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, I also added this pretty late in development. This building right here, the light blue that you're seeing right there, that's glass, that's see-through. So this is going to be a big, a giant window, you know, so from the attacker's side you can see which defenders are running around here, or just generally who's running around in here. Yeah, just a cool addition I wanted to make this wall a lot less boring. I think that is it for my map. I think I've shown everything I wanted to show. I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah, my very first walkthrough. Oh, my dog's entering my room. Dog's entering the room for the outro. So yeah, that was my very first walkthrough. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I, you know, explained everything as well as I could, and to the best of your understanding. If you still have any questions, don't be afraid to, you know, don't just write some comments. If you want to collab, tell me in the comments as well. I might even put my Discord in the description. I'm not sure about that though, so don't trust on that. Yeah, you know, put your feedback to the map and to the walkthrough itself in the comments below. And thank you very much for giving me all of this, you know, giving me all of your attention throughout this entire, what has it been, like 3 hours? Yeah, thanks a lot. Take care.